Gang, some interesting news here. I just saw this video, it just popped up on my YouTube homepage feed, but I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't seen anyone else talking about it, but it seems like a huge deal. It's the NCAA declares a statement, an existential threat. So apparently, this judge approved a $2.8 billion settlement. Schools free to begin paying athletes directly. So so much going on in my brain, so I kind of want to watch it with you guys and react, but this could open up some very interesting dialogue. And as I mentioned on the Pass First podcast, when we were having the conversation, is like the landscape of college sports is going to change so much in the next few years, not only with NIL, but if schools also now get involved with paying, this is going to be interesting. So let's watch it. Let's see. It might not even be anything I'm talking about. My mind might just be going crazy, but let's have a look at it.
Welcome back to Sports Center. Brian Custer, Jay Harris, and a federal judge approving terms of a huge $2.8 billion antitrust settlement that will change the way college sports have been run for more than 100 years. Here's the snapshot. Schools can now pay players directly, which is directly opposite the foundation of amateurism that college sports was built on, and that foundation has now crumbled. Here's what the settlement means.
Okay. Expected limit of $20.5 million for athlete payments with increases over 10-year deal. Impact on schools moving forward. $20.5 million for athlete payments. I'm assuming that's across all of the NCAA then. And I wonder if this is NCAA division. Hold on. Implementation of sports roster limits. Creation of college sports commission to handle enforcement. Okay, so that's at least a good thing. That's something that I've spoken about, this part right here. I've spoken about that in the past. I'm trying to fix my camera here. I've spoken about that quite a bit. One of the biggest issues I have with college sports is just the fact that there's like no enforcement. Yes, there's technically the NCAA board or whatever it is, but you know, every time someone gets caught in a scandal, they just like slap on the wrist and don't really do anything. Very rarely do they crack down on things that are making them money. They don't really uphold their end of the bargain. They just protect their institutions, protect their contracts, they protect anything that's making them money. But what's happened with that is things have gotten so far out of hand. Again, this NIL has come in, so much other factors have come in. And because they haven't regulated in so long, I feel like there's so many people have their hands in the pot, and different interests now are trying to be trying to keep up with all of those. So everyone's being pulled in all these different directions. So I'm at least glad that there's a creation of a college sports commission. I don't know how much faith I have in that doing a good job, but I'm waiting to be pleasantly surprised, I suppose.
Moving forward, schools will be limited to roughly $20.5 million total for athletes' payments in the 2025-26 season, with that limit increasing for each of the next 10 years. Wow. Schools will be allowed to set roster limits for each program, although current team members will.
And this is saying schools will be allowed to implement roster limits. Again, this doesn't sound like it's the top of the food chain that's laying out these rules. It sounds like the schools are going to get together and have these conversations. So many questions I have.
Grandfathered in. And a new college sports commission will replace the NCAA as the enforcement arm of payment rules. Let's talk about it now with our college football contributor, Paul Fineball. Paul, when you first heard this ruling, you first heard this story, and it was set in stone and made news, what was your initial thought?
Jay, I couldn't help but think back about 10 years ago when Mark Emmert, then the president of the NCAA, essentially said college athletes will be paid over my dead body. He's still alive, but the NCAA is dead. It may still be in existence. We're still having tournaments such as the Women's World Series and the men's baseball. But the NCAA, as we know it, is gone. They literally have no jurisdiction whatsoever other than to be tournament directors. And this was supposed to level the playing field. Everybody pays the same into the kitty and then divvies it up. But it will do anything but. The big will get bigger, and the small schools will simply.
He's exactly right. Like, how silly is that? Like, this is going to make it fair for everyone. We're going to pay these millions of dollars. Do you think the largest, especially the SEC schools, do you think they'd be willing to put in millions and millions and millions? Meanwhile, smaller schools, Big Sky conference schools or whatever, they're going to get the same amount out of it, and then they can pay players as well? No, like the largest schools, the largest corporations, organizations, the ones that are at the top that are making these decisions definitely wouldn't make these decisions to level the playing field. They'd be making these decisions in their best interest. Again, this is the biggest issue I had with the NCAA in the first place. Now it just seems like it's gone to an outside organization. Is the board of this all just people that represent the largest schools? Is that what we're saying? If that's the case, like, I've spoken about this over on the channel in the last couple of years. I'm working on over the last year that I've had the channel, I'm working on a video at the moment that's talking about some of these things. So this is very interesting about what I think is going to happen to college sports, professional sports over the next 10 years here in America. And this is kind of just happening faster. I assume this is something that's going to happen in the next 2 years, and then this just seems like things are going to blow up pretty quick.
Slip away, other than maybe in basketball only conferences, they can use all that money for basketball, as opposed to like at Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State, where they have to split up $20.5 million.
If we get the big getting bigger and the small slipping away, put on your prognostication hat. What will major college sports look like, say, in, I don't know, 10, 15 years?
Again, like I just said, it won't be 10, 15 years. This is going to be 5 years.
It will look a little bit like the NCAA basketball tournament this year, where the mid-majors, where we had all those great upsets, the Butlers of the past, and so many incredible stories, the Valpos, they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
It's going to be the big schools on top. The rest of the college athletics is going to suffer. And what was really interesting, Jay, I heard Pete Thamel earlier announce that there's going to be a new director of enforcement, so to speak, this ex-Major League Baseball executive who was a former U.S. attorney. Well, good luck for that. The NCAA, whose main goal was to enforce college athletics, could not do it. This person will not be able to do it either.
Yeah, it's exactly what we were talking about. Man, there's so many things going on in my head. I've spoken to so many college coaches that have like had so many issues dealing with NIL, and because a lot of these coaches were around before NIL, and a lot of them sharing their concerns over like, here's how we have to do things now, and this is what's changed, and we have to adapt in this way, and we got blah blah blah, whatever. And now this is happening too. Like this landscape, it was already kind of the wild, wild west. Now it's why did I say wild? It was the Wild West. I think I was thinking of the Will Smith song, but it's even worse. And I don't know. You can't put the cat back in the bag with this, right? What do you guys think?
Because there will be more litigation. And the real casualty of all this, I believe, is going to be the one part of college athletics that has grown so much. We watched the Women's World Series last night, $1 million pitcher, by the way, for Texas Tech. Women's sports, I think, is going to suffer from this, because if you're at one of these Ohio States or Alabamas and you're divvying up $20.5 million, you know where most of it's going. It's going to football. And that is really a major casualty. And there's also going to be more lawsuits. And this is a big moment, but it's anything but over.
Since you mentioned him,
I can't see this 20.5 million per school. I can't see that lasting long. Again, like I said, these large schools. Okay, just imagine. I'm trying to think of a school that we can actually use, but I'll just use a hypothetical because I can't think of one off the top of the head. But let's just go with Florida, because the Florida boys won the national championship in the NCAA men's. Obviously, they're going to be spending. They have tons of NIL money to recruit players. But now let's see, they're SEC still, right, Florida? So a majority of their money is going to go to football, but with their basketball team just winning. And now you've got your Florida Gator women's team. It's just like, how are you expecting them to divvy up that money against a school like Valparaiso, who is like, you know what, all we really have a chance at is basketball, so we're going to put all of our money in basketball, forget football, to have a chance. Like, I don't see that. I just don't see how that's going to, how is this going to be enforced, for one? How does this work in conjunction with the NIL? Is the NIL still separate? Because if that's the case, then all these schools are just going to circumvent the route of, oh yeah, we only pay this many teams this much money, but then they'll just circumvent it and be like, NIL is actually paying the rest of our kids. So, wow, this seems
I will name
slippery.
him MLB executive Brian Seeley, named CEO of the new College Sports Commission late last night. If you could give him one or two pieces of advice as he moves forward, what would you tell him?
Yeah, go to your local CVS and buy the biggest bottle of Advil you can find, because you are going to have more headaches than you've ever had before. And I hate to be a pessimist on a beautiful Saturday morning, Jay, but this sport is not fixable. As soon as this is settled, which of course it was last night, executives are going to Washington to keep pushing Congress to solve their own problems. College athletics did this to themselves, and they're not really suffering for it because it's a billion-dollar industry.
Not yet.
But it's going to be very uneven in the future, and I think at some point fans are going to start tuning out, because there is such an existential threat to what we grew up loving and we still do. It's not going to be the same anymore.
You're not making me happy this morning, Paul.
That's pretty much it. He's exactly right. Like, you're not going to see the issues now. And the problem with so many of our sports, you look at the NBA, look at our major sports, like everything starts going towards what gets more views tomorrow. What gets more views tomorrow? Look at our mainstream media. Again, keeping this all to sports. The mainstream media with sports. So look at Sports Center. Whenever they have their discussions, it's typically Stephen A. Smith yelling at someone. Like, it's not about the substance. It's about like the entertainment. What's going to get views? What's going to get eyes? You can only do that for so long, and eventually you either run out of views. Like, you can't get more views, or you start like, you go so far where people that were on board for like the analytics and stuff that were here for a long time, eventually they start being like, dude, I don't want to watch this anymore. That's what's going to happen. That's happening all over the place, but that's what's going to start happening with college sports now. It's like, people, let's take Oklahoma, for example, because that's where I'm from. Man, college sports in Oklahoma is huge, because all we have is OKC Thunder now. But before OKC Thunder, we didn't have any professional sports. So all we had was college sports. So OU football games, OSU football games, OU basketball games, OSU basketball, Tulsa sports, football and basketball. Like everyone packs the stadium, and it's a huge deal, and tailgating is huge, and supporting your team and supporting the kids that come through that college, and then the kids can come back. It was a huge deal. It's a huge culture piece. But now you're going to be going to OU basketball games, and instead of kids that grew up in Oklahoma or Texas, which is obviously right there, instead of kids going there through Oklahoma, and then people are like, I went to Oklahoma, you're in Oklahoma now, we're going to support you and all this. It's going to be like 1 year. It's happening now with NIL. One kid is from New York, and he's like, well, I got more money to go. I'm going to go back to, I'm in Oklahoma, and now I'm going to go to Texas, and then I'm going to go to California and play. They're already bouncing around too much. Now you add this on top of it, where it's like, okay, I went to OU and I want to support all my OU like newer players coming through, but it's like these people aren't even from here. And then it's like, well, also we're only allowed to put so much money in one thing. Meanwhile, this school is it's just going to be like, what am I watching? Why am I watching this? Why do I even care anymore? I think that's going to happen way sooner than they realize. Again, people make so much money, mainly people at the top. They make so much money on their immediate ROI, so immediate return on investment. So if I push this button tomorrow, the number go up. If number go up, good decision. The problem with that type of thinking is it's not unlimited. At some point, people just start to catch on, and they're like, okay, it can't always be about the money. Like, why do we do sports? Some people do sports betting, so that's why they watch, right? But not everyone watches because they have money on the game. Some people watch because it's like, I've loved this team for 20, 30 years, and I take my kids, my granddad took me, and so there's actually more there. It's actually worth more than the money they're making right now. You can make money over this person's lifetime and their generations after them and generations after them. But instead, what's going to start happening is people are like, too expensive, or don't care, and then you kind of lose that thing that made it special in the first place, the whole reason we watch sports. So yeah, this is interesting. I'm definitely going to look more into this. I'm going to try to find someone speaking on this so we can have a deeper conversation. I'm going to research a bit more, and I want to talk to you guys about it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on like current NIL, obviously, but now with this dropping, yeah, what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen? I'm really interested in having this discussion because it's been in my head so long. Like I said, I've spoken to a lot of college coaches, spoken to a lot of high school, people just fans of the game, but now having this community with you guys, I get even more perspectives and ideas. So yeah, let me know what you think. And Jesus, is this the end of college sports as we know it? Something to think about. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video, I guess. Peace.